Hey friends, Dan Przaski from All About Mini Bikes. How you guys doing? We're doing great over here. It was a busy week. I did post. We tried to get some stuff on the weekend. That didn't happen. It was actually a great weekend last weekend, but we were laying mulch, and of course we didn't get that finished because the rains came in really bad, and it was dropping ragweed and those little helicopters everywhere, and all the mulch we put up in the front just it's got ragweed and everything all over. Anyway, we did a lot of work and a lot more to do with that, but so much for that stuff. Just letting you know, hey, we're just like you. A lot of things going on. We try to get things done, but sometimes life gets in the way, right? But I want to talk a little bit about the build because we were trying to get the motor mounted, and I want to show you a couple little things that happened along the way to that. Okay, so check this out. Okay, so I had these tires. These are 6 inchers, and I've had these for probably 2 years. Issue, when they came to me, they were packaged with other stuff, and especially the front tire was smashed in really deep to the point where I actually put one of the hubs together and put it on, and it was so out of proportion. The one side was all the way like it should be, and the other one just laid flat no matter what I did when I filled it up. So I got to thinking about it for a while, and I said, well, I don't like that. So what I did was I took it back apart 2 days ago, and then I put the inner tube in there and I blew it up, and I did that so that we can get the shape the proper way that it should be, because I had it done and I had those on there for a while and it did not want to work out right. And so for the heck of it, I did it for the rear wheel also. And then I ran into another issue. So over here we've got the bike, and I was saying we're gonna put the motor mount. So the first thing you do is you take and you hook the motor up to the mount, and you get the back wheel on. And once you get the back wheel on and you put it centered totally, the wheel totally centered where it's supposed to be, then you can move that motor mount around, run a straight edge, check your rear gear to the sprocket on the clutch, and that's how you get it lined up straight before you weld it. But lo and behold, we came into a couple problems because I didn't quite have enough. We measured out. We have 7 inches on the very back end here. We've got 7 inches there, and the hub inside was 2 inches, and blah blah blah. So you want to go get it straight through to the center. And when I did all that, and we cut some spacers, and I still was up. I was still short that much, so I went up to Ace Hardware and got that. And another issue I'll tell you about is these bolts that we got, and why I have those. So what I did when I put that back on, the issue I had then was that as I was turning the wheel, it was like it was warped. I was getting this off wobble like that. So what I've done right now is I said, okay, let's fix these tires. So I took those off, put air inner tube in there to get those stretched back out. I took both the front and the back hub that I had already put together and took them apart and then split them, meaning that I took one part of the hub and put it to the back one, and then one of the back to the front. So I'm at the point right now that I'm going to take and put it back together and then see if I'm still getting that wobble. If I'm getting wobble in there, and I put a level on this, it seems good. If I'm getting wobble in there, it's got to be either somewhere warped in that hub, or most likely I would think this rear sprocket is, and there's nothing I can do about it. If that comes the case, I've got to I'm going to have to go order online another hub. I won't do a TriStar. I'll do something else. No, TriStar. I've never had a problem before. I've heard other people have problems with the TriStar. I have not had a problem before. This is the first time, actually. And so we'll see what happens. But I cannot line up. I can't line it up with a warp there. So if I tried to take this, let's pretend it's on the bike right now, and I'm doing the straight edge off of there. The problem is that this keeps going back and forth, right? And so the issue would come with that I would never make sure, I would not have a straight line, for sure a positive straight line from that gear on the back up to the front. And so it could be welded on incorrectly, and I don't want that to happen, that's for sure. That right there, I'd have to cut it back off and start all over again. We don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is put these back together, and I'll end up showing you. I'll put it back together, and I'll show you what I'm talking about after I do that. But this is the stuff that can happen, and if I wouldn't have noticed it, and you go ahead and you keep building, then you're flawed from the beginning, and you're going to end up with an issue and end up taking it back apart and doing some cutting and re-welding. But so I'm glad I caught part of that. But let me start putting this back together, and we'll see what we can do. Okay. And now what I'm actually doing here, and have done, was, you can see I let out, in fact, I'm going to do this in the future. I've let out just enough air, okay, so it's still in there, and sometimes when you try to put it in with a tube, no air in it, you almost feel like you're going to pinch it, putting it in. But in the case of that, it's not. I have to push down a little bit to get the nuts through and put the bolts on, but I hope they don't fall off right now, but that's what I've done. This will be the rear one right here. That's what I've done. But anyway, see, I let out just enough. It's still in there. I like it. It's holding itself. But it's not so much that I can't put the hubs from side to side and collapse it down. So I'm going to take right now and get these ones here bolted up. Okay, so now I put the rear hub together. So we'll see what that looks like. I don't have to do the front right now because you'll see I don't need it on to try to line this up, okay? Okay, so quite simply put, and I'm not going to even blow the tire up anymore. It doesn't need to be. Always when you're attaching the rear sprocket, just make sure that you don't put it on the side that the valve comes out of. And in fact, another good thing to do is to always put your covers on your valve stems, unlike I forgot, because you'll lose them pretty easily. Flip-flop, they go anywhere. So now what I'm going to do is I'll get this stuff off of here, and I'll put the frame up here, and I'll show you what we're talking about. Okay, so now what I've done here is I've got the rear wheel on, okay? It's not super tight, and it's about centered, almost perfect. Not quite, I would just have a little bit. The reason why I'm not going into the big detail of that is because I've got to have a bad rim here. It's got to be a bad rim here, because when I spin it, you can see it's just moving left to right, left to right, left to right. And I've done it however I switch it. So I've got to have, if not a bad hub, it's got to be a bad gear here. So I'm going to have to get that figured out, get another one, try to put it on and see what works. Another thing I do is I get these other bolts. A real problem with the nylocks, these are what you want to use. You put it on the end. The problem is with the nylocks, you can see the nylon in there. As you start to screw it on, you'll get one side, but it'll start to lock in, and then you'll try to do the other. And then on the axle, it's crazy because that axle will keep changing, and so you'll end up with one on tight and the other one barely on, and the axle will be all off to one side or the other. So what I usually do, in the case of here, if this were ready to go, I would put one all the way tight, go to the other side, take the nylock, put it on all the way tight. By the time that was tight, I'd be able to take off the other one and put the nylock on the other one, and those really hold it in there. They don't go anywhere. But now I'm at a standstill, which my buddy who's going to weld it on there for me anyways got COVID, so he's going to be out for about 5 more days, so I've got to go look for a hub and do that. But let me put the motor on here and I'll tell you what else I'm talking about. All right, so I'm not going to play with it now, but I have the motor on here, the clutch, on and off. And what I would do is take my straight edge, I put it right up against the gear, and it would go forward all the way up there to the outside of the clutch gear also. And that's how you line it up. Once you get that lined up, you'd still have a little play, because you could take that clutch slightly in or out before you tighten it down with the key. But right now I'm at a standstill. because I've got a warped hub or sprocket, one of the two of them. So I'm going to have to get that ordered. And then I'm letting you know that as we're doing this, because once the bike's complete, we have it all together and we know it runs really, really good, we'll strip it apart and then we'll show the whole build, how to, painting and everything, and how to do it all once we do that. But for right now, I'm just kind of catching you up on why there's always delays. There's things that you try to do, there's just delays. And when you're using other people also, only because I'm not a great welder, I need my friend to do it. And he's got COVID right now. But even if he didn't, I couldn't go till I get this here taken care of. So that's where we're at right now. Thanks for watching. Share with your friends. You got comments, questions, put them in there. Try to answer them as best as we can. I'm sure there's a couple things I was going to tell you that I forgot about.